This is the intro for a panel that I had for last week for Texas Comic Con. I should say Houston Comic Con called Comicpalooza. Um, and for the Filipinos watching it, I am sorry. It's hard to code switch. You know, pasensya na paumanhin for when I pronounce it with American accent. Would think I was in full American Texas mode because I was there. So but pasensya na, it's hard for me to multitask. But I hope you like it. I hope you like it. It is basically a panel on Filipino martial arts and creative properties throughout history. So comics, movies, and TV. So enjoy.
Daily storm above me, I still feel neglected embrace. As I look beyond this horizon, I've been
When we think of FMA in the interface of different intellectual properties, whether that's comics, TVs, and film, let me write it down. It didn't come it didn't come organically. There was a reason why it led up to that. So what was it, right? Let me go over that.
Movie stage my house out. So we're going to see
Okay. So that's the title of our panel: Camera, Culture, and Combat, Unveiling FME's Historic Legacy in Comics, Film, and TV. So this is for this version this year, 2024. My name is Julius Vladimir Francisco. I'm the youngest member of Ray Bradbury's group. I'm also an FMA instructor. My Monday to Friday, my 9 to 5 is I fix tankless commercial water heaters for a living. And my sideline is I'm making indie films, solo content creator. So what is FMA? This is the thing that we're not going to completely address here because of the politics of Filipino martial arts. We're just going to know that under the rubric heading, this is what is officially known as, or known throughout pretty much most of the world as accepted terms. Arnis, Eskrima, Kalis, really with the S, if you want to go to the true ethnographic meaning of it. There's been a lot of different research during the last 25 years, very correct research by Dr. Ned Napange and Celestino Macachor. Also, there's current dissertation being done right now in Italy by a gentleman by the name of Andrea Rollo. He works in signals intelligence, and Kalis is really the better term instead of Kali. It should be with an S. This was supposed to be our panelist for this weekend, but I'm so sorry. So I'm going to go over this with you, and I'm going to get some involvement. When you think about the different intellectual properties, comics, TVs, TV shows, and film, name like a FMA practitioner, or like maybe like a Batman or anything like that. Let's get the crowd involved. Name one. Raise your hand. Can you come up in the middle, or? When you think about Filipino martial arts portrayed in different intellectual properties, whether that's comics, film, TV, think of different intellectual properties. Name at least one or two. Star Wars is one. Yeah, go ahead. And then name a second one, perhaps.
Let's give it one. So
Come on, come on, come on. Just because you were brave, even if you didn't get two right. So this is the hunted. Yeah, so let's give him a clap. This is one with some good FMA in it, with Benicio del Toro, and you'll like that. Thank you. That's one example. We think of Star Wars, and particularly when it comes to Star Wars, particularly the prequel films was really choreographed deeply by a group called Northern Screamer Group, which was a bunch of FMA practitioners in Northern California. So the different styles that Jedi practice, for example, you can pick up different FMA styles like Sarada, Mahalana, and later in the panel, I cannot give their contacts and have some type of sheet because that's considered soliciting. So you could just meet me after the panel and I can exchange information. Also, I cannot give geolocation. Like I asked the admin about that. I give the different Filipino martial arts practitioners that work in the entertainment industry throughout different Hollywoods throughout the planet. And they were like, yeah, no, that's an OPSEC violation. So can't have that. But you can meet me after and I can give you different contacts of whatever geographical region you want in the planet. I've done a lot of extensive research concerning this and my interface in the entertainment field and FMS. First order of business is I have to say rest in peace to Carlo Jacob Arras, who actually just passed away 24 hours ago. I had to do a last minute edit of this PowerPoint presentation because he's considered in the local Filipino film industry one of the pioneers, because he started doing movies about FMA right after the Bruce Lee, even as early as the 70s. And it actually all started particularly in the Philippines anyway, it really started in comic books. Kamagon is basically a very big hit, what would be equivalent here as dollar cereals. Kamagon stands for ironwood. That's what that means. And what's great is that the interface of some of the creators is when you do a lot of drawing in different comics, you pick up as a practitioner which ones are adepts and which ones are not. The person is definitely an adept, the artist who did this, because notice how he defends the low line, spreading the legs, and has basically a pile or loop block at the top. And the fact that they practice edge discipline when they hold the stick. Because the knuckle is basically the edge. You always have to think about it that fighting with a cylinder and a blade is very different, right? When a cylinder, you think about it as an impact tool. So you're thinking about causing trauma, hematoma, that type of damage. A chopping tool, a stabbing tool, the mechanics is slightly different. So you always have to have exercise blade discipline. Notice how the edge is always there, the knuckles is always pointed to the opponent. So the artist in that comic book definitely was an FMA practitioner. Okay, so I had questions from a prior panel, how early does it go? How early does the comic book or periodical type of thing go in Philippine history? Actually, the last turn of the century, not the 2000s, but 1890s. First, it was essentially these periodicals that were made by the outgoing Spanish administration. They created one called The Con Leche. They spelled it intentionally wrong. It's supposed to be Te Con Leche, so tea and milk, right? But they did that basically to diss the incoming American administration. And so you can see, in the it's ¿de qué es quedar conmigo? It's what are you doing, honey? Basically, to the guy. It's is it okay to, this girl love me. And he says, well, if you're military, it's no problem, right? Because back in the day, during the transitionary period of the Philippine-American War, the lingua franca obviously was Spanish, and then as the Americans came, they have, the local tribes, they all have their separate languages, and then English slowly became the method of instruction. But this was them dissing the incoming Americans because it's dressed like a regular GI, picking up a Filipino girl, and then the local Filipino guy feeling jilted. What? It's carrying a stick, right? So that is really one of the earliest depictions of some form of, anime in local media. Although there have been older ones, I had to travel all the way to the Philippines to get that. The photo itself is from a digital archive, but the one on the right is actually the one in the museum. I could not get a great photo in the museum because it was really badly faded already. When we think about the interface in American intellectual properties and comic books and the contributions that Filipinos had on it, and later their interface of FMA and these different intellectual properties, we have to give much thanks to this guy that was inducted in the Comic Book Hall of Fame last year, Tony DeZuniga. Because he is what brought about what people call the Filipino invasion or Filipino wave. Because what happened back in the 70s is, in DC, they were needing of more and more comics because the demand, they couldn't keep up with the demand. So what ended up happening is a couple of the editors were like, man, like, what are we gonna do? Like, how are we gonna get like America? We can't find enough talent, essentially. So what ended up happening is they went to RP. They went to the Philippines, and there's in the U.S. head of DC named Joe Orlando. Talked to man on Tony, and he's like, look, I could do that. I could do like 40 pages in a week. It's like, are you sure? Yeah. I should do a lot more than that. The legend in the comic book industry is he did 90. And we're talking about like Albert Brewer wood block cuts and like a little bit of detail. And he's like, you know what? There's a lot more guys like me where I came from. Maybe what you could do is essentially what we call with the HP One pieces back then and bring them over. So this happened in the late 60s. Now, I do have to ask, when it comes to your interface of martial arts and comics, what famous comic book character did Mung Tony co-create? Does anybody know? I mean, that kind of gives it away. It gives you a hint, that photo. Are you down for maybe some hints? So, again, really two big ones. So, one person in DC is basically Poison Ivy, but a good Poison Ivy. So that's one. And then the other one is a movie that an actress in one of the Transformer movies was at. And that should give it away to you guys. Anybody care to take a guess? What did you say? Nobody? That's Jonah Hex. Yeah. So Mung Tony co-created Jonah Hex, and he also co-created a Black Orchid, which is basically Poison Ivy, but a good Poison Ivy, which uses her powers for good, right? Mano Nestor Redondo. If y'all grew up in like the 70s, 60s, and a lot of like the DC stuff with like very high detail, he's the co-creator of kind of like the Filipino Superman, Darna. Alfredo Alcala, who created Voltart 3 years before Conan the Barbarian was in the famous Frank Frazetta. So this obviously took some cues from from Voltart, And a dear friend of ours, Mang Alex Nino. So if you ever read Swamp Thing in the early 80s, some of the Batman, if you ever watched Mulan, he did the concept art for Mulan. He did the storyboard concept art for Mulan. And I recommend that you, when it comes to Filipino martial arts and comic books and graphic novels, for you to purchase Alan Dahl. Very good, very historically accurate, right? So when we think about movies, on the other hand, and different intellectual properties, so that was comics. Really, the interface where it all came from before movies really was comic books. But when it comes to movies, you have one here with Gary Cooper. And it was essentially like a film of his where he's like pacifying the Moorish tribes in Mindanao. Obviously, you have Bruce Lee and the Filipino John Wayne, Fernando Poe Jr., no relation to Edgar Allan Poe. and obviously the Bourne movies. Roland Dantes, who was a contemporary of Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's actually bigger, slightly bigger than Arnold. Every time like Arnold and him would take a photo, Arnold would like take a tippy toe, so he would appear taller. That's weird. So, getting all involved again. You saw the Bourne movies. Name another movie that has FMA in it. I mean, there's so many. Pretty much anything that has like impact tools or edge weapon. Go ahead, Scott. Huh? Matrix. Yeah. So some of it was Yen Wu Ping type of thing, but there were some people in the stunt department that were trained in Sando Academy. Come up, sir. Come on. You get your picture. I'm not the game. Something for you, huh? You recognize something. Oh, this one. Yeah. By bust. He gets by bust. So, I think you can watch on Netflix, but that's a special one because it's got behind the scenes and everything. It's a Blu-ray, you know. So. Anyone else? Carnage Riddick has FMA. Yeah, with the Karambit, yeah. Come on, sir. Get the first one. Okay, cool.
Was the rain coming?
The rain is sea life. Yeah. But the movie that he got, the Bybus, that's basically the Filipino version of the rain. Yeah. I personally think it's better. It has a lot of social commentary. So just give you examples of like the local Filipino industry, like what they think of like how FMA is practiced in the movies. This was a famous one back in the 80s called Kamagong. And I will translate like how the fact that they're adepts because they give the names of the moves while they're training like a non-adept, right?
Wala pa sa ikasampung bahagi ng bilis ni Manuel ang ipinakita mo, Riel. Ipakita mo kay Riel ang katotohanan ng aking sinabi. Pagkat nasa ika-6 na pagbibilog ng buwan pa lamang tayo, Riel. Redonda. Sinawali. Abanico. Ibanda. Rompida. Songkiti. Sa matatag na pulso, ang unang susi sa paghawak ng arnis. Tulad na isang mabangis na hayop ang dapat paamuhin. Lumalangit-ngit ito at nangangalit sa biyasang kamay. Ito'y sandatang handang pumatay. Handa ka na ba? Oo.
The guy that I had earlier, that I said RIP to, who just passed away 24 hours ago, he was the guy who wrote the comic book for that. He did the original art anyway. Although the artist, he offloaded that to 2 different artists to do the comic. That's the comic book movie. But going over that, like he was instructing this kid, like saying like, okay, like you're not even 1/10 as fast as me, and then he threw like the grains of corn, and then he wiped that off with a fanning strike, and none of them hit him, right? This movie was advised and choreographed by a modern Ernest combatant master, GM Ernesto Presas. So when we think about FMA here in the West, we think of like a lot of them are trained in the West Coast, particularly in Florence. The people that come from like Guru dance lineage, but one has to understand that FMA is practiced not only in the home lands of RP, but also throughout different countries throughout the planet. And since now it's completely branched off, he's no longer just stuck in like American movies or Filipino movies. Even in Scandinavian films, you have like guys like bad directions like Johan Skulberg doing like a advisement with the action cinema over there that needs like any type of like blade-based or impact-based tool methodology. And it's not just sticks; it is guns, blades, bullwhips, any tool that you can put in your hand. Because we're primates, like we use tools, right? Nobody ever went to war empty-handed, right? So the difference in methodology when it comes to Filipino martial arts is they start you with a weapon first. You learn the empty hand later, right? Because having a tool is a force multiplier. So, right. So now I have to ask, because there's some youngins in the thing, in the crowd. Think about video games that have FMA. Do you know any? What?
I like the weapons.
Can you come up? I can't hear you.
Were you gonna say Arkham series with like Nightwing?
Exactly. Yeah. So actually, I think the next slide might be him.
Wala pa siya isang bahagi ng bilis ni Manuel yung pinakita mo, yan.
Sorry about that. I clicked on it again. So I think that so the next slide is Nightwing. So there you go. So the character that he said was Nightwing, which is basically Batman's Robin when he was older. But here's the thing. Herein lies the problem. These two characters are actually drawn by a Filipino. So this is like Francis Manapul, I believe. Yeah, Francis Manapul is a Filipino comic book artist. That's his take on Nightwing. And then you have Grail, which was created by Will Portacio, who also was a creator of Bishop in X-Men. Notice, and this is my critique, that doesn't mean that just because they're Filipino that they got it right. Like you don't hold it in the middle. There's no leverage in there. Like the majority of the impact is at the end. So you're supposed to hold it closer to the butt, just like that Kamago one that I showed you. Because you know that the person who drew it was an addict. And so that's the thing that we have to address in Filipino martial arts and different intellectual properties. Perhaps do basic research. I mean, I don't mean to be very critical. Now, Will is a practitioner, but this is like early part of his career where he was like not one. But it is very important that when you do like a project about something, maybe involve the people that are in that and part of that culture or part of that practice to get it right, you know? So clearly that's a very bad depiction. Like, that's not gonna hurt anybody. It's like going like that with you, right? No, you smack him all the way, but you have to hold the weapon closer to the edge so you get the most leverage, the most kinetic energy, right? Thank you for that. That's funny that you said Nightwing. So, go ahead. Any questions? Yeah.
Just a quick comment. I studied perception, and if you had that picture on the right next to a picture of someone holding the weapon correctly, they can tell you which one will cause the most damage just by looking.
Yeah, but essentially you don't have pakal grip on a really long weapon. Pakal meaning like an ice pick hold, right? When you have like does anyone have like a tool? Oh, okay. that's fine. Unfortunately, the admin did not let me like make like part of the gifts be like extrema sticks because that's considered weaponry. So please understand. Please understand. Please understand. I got a critical comment earlier. He's like, "You're not giving it away." Someone actually approached me. He's like, "You have an FMA panel? Is that you? You're gonna give like wak sticks or like basta bonal sticks?" I'm like, "You want me to get canceled?" So yeah. Thank you for that comment, by the way, and I'll note it. And then you guys play video games, right? That's another one. So someone definitely has to talk to Activision and tell them like, hey, you guys are doing something wrong. Why do you portray it like that in Call of Duty Modern Warfare? That's atrocious, right? So it's just little things like that. I always tell people, get the actual people in that culture or practitioners involved. It's because it helps, because that takes you out of the immersion, right?
The sticks are correct.
Yeah, but yeah. I even then I don't think so, because like you should have it unhusked. They put the fire patterning, and I get the logic behind it, but you're supposed to use an unhusked stick in combat. That's a husked stick. That will fall. You throw that hard enough, that will break. So it will shatter. So we gotta talk about like certain unsung heroes that people don't talk about, incorporating Filipino martial arts in the greater comics, cartoon, and maybe even live action community that doesn't get a lot of notoriety or shout out. For kids in the Philippines in the 90s, definitely the character on the left, Combatron, which is one of like the biggest hits on the local comics over there. And then Graham, which is part of Image Comics Wetworks. So you have like Jim Lee, Los Portacio. And if you guys were fans of the Star Wars movies, particularly the prequel ones, a lot of the saber combat, the lightsaber, was done by the NorCal team. And of course, the legacy of Jeff Amada with all the Bourne movies, right? So far, does anybody have any questions? He might have. Yeah, he's been around since the 80s. He had that Body Song Bible book, yeah. And then bonus points for these two questions. This is where I'm going to give the game to. Who is that? Who's a gamer here? You know what game that's from? No. I can't hear you. What'd you say? No, it's not Zelda. But thank you for participating. You can sit. Wait, come. You can still pick what you want. Pick what you want. Tell me what you want. Courage should be rewarded. That should be the first hallmark of martial arts instruction. You're building men, you're not building killing machines. Soul Calibur, yeah, correct, it's a Soul Calibur, but you get this game from getting it right. First, who is she? Huh? What's the latest Soul Calibur game? Huh? Okay, so whoever gets like the harder question right, that's what we're gonna get the Xbox game to. That's Talon, which means edge or shark in Tagalog. She was actually absent for Soul Calibur 5, and they brought her back for Soul Calibur 6. And that's the reason why I have this game here to give away later. So that's FMA in a video game. So contrast like the incorrect stuff with the correct. So this is like proper representation, right? In a fight, what do? You took out his mobility, hit him in the shin. What he did, he hit him with the shin, damaged like in his foot. He raised his foot, hit his feet, his opponent's feet. He then throws a feint. That feint causes him to raise his hand. So that's what the instructions is written. And then hits him in the solar plexus. And then what ended up happening is his breath got stuck inside of him, is what he's saying, right? So, the artist and the writer is an adept. And that's the kind of type of representation that we want to see. Not only like, you're not giving like lessons of like, how to hurt someone, like, not how to move. Anybody can get that in any type of YouTube or DVD instructional. What I'm saying is like when you're doing an art, there is like the combat effectiveness, and then there's the proper expression. So there's little things like that. Like creators need to take that into account. Do your research. So if you're gonna be like your goal is to be like a comic book creator or anything, or a graphic novel artist, do your research. Like this guy. they're in the fighting stage. You get more grip. Yeah, you get more grip. Any other questions? So that's the main thing. The interface of that here in the United States of America is the adepts, a lot of them do work in entertainment. Like if there's a certain section, I should say, the small certain section that work in the entertainment field, but they also train military, like LEO, special mission units, any type of edge combatants, just like Fairbairn Sykes, a combat form that was World War II. And then they also train FMA and Krav Maga. Like so, and there's a lot of cross-pollination between even different styles. Filipino martial arts is, when people think about it, they think about only using tools such as blades and sticks. No, there's an empty hand component, there's ground game, there's other weapons that you use, such as strangulation techniques, because it was used for combat. So anybody have questions right now? Let's get
All right, on that video game one, because I don't play games, the way she was holding it, it was almost like it was tonfa.
No, it was a tonfa. It was tonfa.
Is there other tonfa in the Filipino martial arts?
Well, and I just wanted to bring that up as another example of a bad representation. In the original Soul Calibur games, they didn't say like she was specifically Filipino, and not that they retconned it, but it was kind of obvious from like the story. And then they said she was from the Visayan Islands, but then the way they portrayed her in the show, or in the video game, there was like rice terraces in the Highlands, which is like 1,000 miles away, like from like a different tribe, right? Do they have tonfas in FMA? They know how to use them, but it's not really part of most curriculum.
Show us.
Yeah, basically her use is tonfas, like bladed tonfas essentially. Yeah, so I contrasted like the bad and good examples of what not to do, right? So, where do we see the interface of this in the future? Like, what do we want to see? Well, we see like different intellectual properties. We see like boxing represented in films and in movies, kung fu, judo, MMA. The only hope of most MMA practitioners is funny because a vast proportion of the ones who work in the entertainment field doing the choreography work, they're MMA practitioners. But then in the movie, they would say like, "Oh, this guy's a samurai," or "This is like a Native American type of thing." They were basically only changing the expression of it, but in fact it's MMA. So I guess like the whole not necessarily the community as a whole, but that in the future it can get the recognition that it deserves. And I think a big way to that right now, does anybody here raise your hand? Does anybody watch like Ahsoka? Yeah? I think that's going to change in the future, the fact that even more so now, Diana Lee and the Sound is getting a lot of power and a lot of pull. It's kind of like the changing of the guard from her father, from Guru Gan, and now basically there's like almost like a sheer monopoly in the Star Wars space of MMA. So a lot of the stuff that you see in that show, both the Pado that you're talking about, the long-range weapon, the lance, the dual lightsaber, and then even the long saber. It's FMA in that show. Because it's basically her and her husband is choreographing it. They're students, essentially. So, sir, you seem to know a lot about Filipino martial arts. Are you a practitioner? Okay, so just sharing it with you guys. So you name different movies. So you name a Nightwing. What other comics do you find FMA? And please take the mic because I can't hear you guys. It's hard because there's like interference from that other side. Daredevil. Correct. Come up, sir. Come up. So that was I gotta give him one because that's an easy one and no one seems to like have named. This is a limited edition Tracy because Tracy is like a Netflix show. The problem is you get that online in Amazon, you can only buy the first 6 volumes. This is volume 8, the latest one. I bought it all the way from the Philippines. So, okay.
I was going to ask, is FMA what we see in Daredevil, in particular in the Hall thing? Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, so the common response to the question that I get is like, what do we see like FMA in the future? Obviously, and I think because Diane and Ron have that work with Disney, there's going to be great representation now, and they're going to be shouting it like to the high heavens, like this is FMA, that kind of thing. But also to see it more, not only in the filmic space. Obviously, there's so many representation of comic book space, just because of the sheer sometimes monopoly of Filipino inkers in the industry. The common refrain in U.S. is if you're a good Filipino kid, you either become an engineer or a nurse, right? If you're a black sheep Filipino kid, you become a comic book artist or do something in entertainment. You can play DJ or something like that. I obviously am like one of the bad kids, but and so many, there's Francis Manapul, Los Portacio, obviously like the old school guys, and they have a lot of Nightwing, all these different characters. But what we want to see more is in animation. So, are you down for seeing like FMA in an anime? Okay, so let me give you an example. Hopefully, it will load.
Padang tulad ng dakilang ibon at lumapag kagaya ng tuyong dahon.
So would you now want to see that? That's a good anime opening. It's very riddle and induced, right? Now comes the question portion. But go ahead.
Okay, just a quick question. All right, it seems like some of those fight sequences there were what we saw in One Piece, and so did they use FMA in One Piece in the live action or not?
No. Oda Sensei. Oda Sensei does not particularly state what fighting techniques, because he created his own like universe type, right? Now, as for the show, I can't speak for the show because I have to look at the credits. That's actually a very good question because I didn't look that up. And I know since that's a Hollywood production, since that's a Netflix production, you got me stumped. So congrats. Come up. Huh? Yeah. Because here's the thing. When we think about double wield, and this is something. I'm gonna get canceled for this, I'm sure. It's called, in Pima, in historical European martial arts, it's called double wield, right? In different Filipino martial arts terms, that's either called a sinawali, or doble espada, or doble baston. I mean, look, the act of like bisecting your left and right side, right? And actually forming the letter Z, right? Because the reason why you're doing that is because have a highline strike. What's the reaction of the opponent? He'll back up, but he'll leave his foot. That's why he'll chop his foot off, right? So that's just a human thing. Like different fighting systems throughout the planet practice double wield forms, whether that's historical European martial arts, African arts, or Filipino martial arts. So I can't comment on that. I have to look up the cast. Maybe, because most Hollywood productions have some person who come from like Duogan's lineage. That's just the truth. Or some type of like combatant or modern artiste. So, go ahead, more questions.
I don't have a question. I just feel I don't deserve this movie because I totally didn't say Game of Death.
Oh, no. Okay, so yes, Game of Death has FMA. Because first off, Bruce Lee, Cantonese Chinese, right? But his uke, his basically right-hand man, and the guy who inherited the JKD after he died was Dan Sano. He's actually one of the bad guys in Game of Death. He's like the one right before the top totem pole, where he fights Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and he had like 2 sticks. You're right. So I mean, Game of Death totally has FMA. And so let's Enter the Dragon. And in fact, Bruce did not learn the nunchucks from Japanese martial arts. That comes from the FMA. He learned the tabakuyo. That's what we call it. It's not called nunchuck. In Filipino, people call it chako or tabakuyo. He learned it from Guru Dan. Sorry. Yeah. And they usually have an octagonal wood handle, not a round one. You want to have a flat base so that when you hit it, doesn't completely bounce back towards you, it slows down. Any other questions for me? And again, I'm sorry, this was supposed to be the demo version where they're all fighting down here. I just couldn't bring them. They're like, oh, I have a seminar to run. I need to hang out with my family Memorial Day. What are these people? Look at you. You got your family's here. It's perfect Memorial Day, like celebration time. So that's cool.
How much do different groups argue about what forms belong to them? Is this a continually ongoing thing?
Oh my God! So there's a saying: if you want to stay out of politics in your life and get politics out of your life, do not be a martial artist. That is. So don't go into politics, don't go to academia, and don't do martial arts. That's a saying among martial artists, like that sentence. They do fight about that all the time. Even with the names I had earlier, Arnis, Kali, Eskrima, it wasn't until the last 2 decades that there been really fine research to know what really MMA should be called. Because the term Kali, as it's said now without the S, that is I'm sorry, all research points to that being a recent creation. Now, was there a word in different languages in the Philippines called kalis? And did it mean fighting with weapons? Yes. But did it mean organized way of instruction by teaching weapons? No, it did not. It just meant 2 guys fighting with sticks or with weaponry. That was not used. Primarily, they used European terms. Arnis comes from the Spanish word arnes, or hand armor. Eskrima comes from the Spanish word escrimar, fighting with weapons. But go ahead.
It's an open comment with the whole politics. It's not even just politics between styles and the wording. There's politics within this one specific group or family group that's trying to determine who's going to be in charge of it and how to splinter groups of it.
And I think that the reason for that being, honestly, so I'm going to give you like a little more a history lesson, because the method of instruction is very avuncular. It's your uncle teaching you. It's kept within the families. So right then it's already political, right? And the thing is, we never had a transitionary period in Filipino martial arts where we were able to make it an art form, where we had the concept in Japanese of Bushido or Kokuye, right? I should say, it never became Do, it never became Pyo, it never became Wei. MMA is a Bugei art. Meaning look, we never had really a transitionary peace period outside of like after 1898 and then 40 years. Prior to that, there was like a conflict every like 4 years or so. So Magellan came, right? The Spanish came, 300 years of subjugation. But every 2 years, there was a revolt somewhere. Somewhere in the islands, there was some type of armed resistance, right? And then after that peacetime, from like 1910s essentially, there was only like 30 years of peace, and there was World War II again. And then after that, there was a military dictatorship, and then after that, there was strife when it comes to the coup d'etats and the conflict back down south in Mindanao. The Filipino martial arts never had like a transitionary period of peace. We were never ever to make it like a way. It was always bugay. You know, it's always a war art. Any other questions?
Is there FMA in Jujutsu Kaisen?
I'm pretty. Here's the thing. Like there was
I got the stick fights.
yeah, the stick fight, but even like the hand trapping, that feels like suntukan. Like, or again, that's another disambiguation term. The proper name is suntukan, meaning fist fighting. Right? Pantukan is more like a Filipino American term. But yes. Yeah. In fact, like when you had Anderson Silva, when he broke his foot when he kicked Chris Weidman in UFC, his trainer flat out said, "Oh, that's limb destruction." A lot of people don't know it's called gunting or scissor because it was a long-time student of Guru Dan. So when someone kicks you, you check the kick with a part of your body that's more calcium fortified. So that particular bone will break, right? So there's like an active and passive movement. So when you punch, you don't hit like the body target, you hit the actual opposing limb, the fist coming at you. So if someone hooks at you, you hook their bicep, right? Because you have a bunch of arteries here, so there's some pain involved, right? You have blood vessels, and then you take out one weapon. Because now they can't use one arm, right? So you don't actually target the not just necessarily the center of mass, but not just the fatal teeth, but their opposing weapons. So in FMA they really highlight defanging the snake. We call it defanging the snake, which is taking out the weapon of the enemy. And the weapon could mean anything in their hand, anything in their foot, their shoe, their appendages. Once you take out their appendages, there's no more weapon. What, they can bite you, that's it, right? How about you, man? Do you have a question? Oh, okay. Is that it? Because we're pretty much done. We got like 3 minutes. Cool. I feel bad because I didn't give away all the prizes. So, darn. What good question is it to ask? So, initially what I wanted to do was like have a sign-up sheet because I would like email you like a list of like different. There's like literally several dozen FMA and like both movies, comics, TV and film. And I can't do that because that's considered soliciting. So like, if we can meet up maybe later and then, and then we could give that out. So there's really no more other questions. Can I ask a question though? And whoever gets it gets Soul Calibur 6. Okay. So maybe a little bit. I guess it's been too hard. I to stump people, right? I gotta come with something easy. Okay. Cool. So I came up with one. In the UFC, you see the concept of like limb destruction, which was like Anderson Silva, and he kicked Chris Weidman, and then his like leg snapped, right? Who was the other fighter that happened to recently during the last 3-4 years? Other prominent champion. That's a pretty easy question, actually. If you watch MMA anyway. No? No. I mean, it wasn't the question. Chris Weidman also, because he also did the exact same technique, and then the other guy did a limb destruction on him, and then it snapped him too. All right. Okay. So this was cool. I gave the answer out earlier. So whoever answered this gets the prize. Which X-Men was co-created by a Filipino?
No, sir.
Come on. You get Soul Calibur 6. Yeah. So MMA came back to Soul Calibur in 6, so that's why I get that. That's it, guys. Thank you. And again, I apologize.